Now we're on chapter 10. I'm so proud of all of you all who are still here. You have studied, you have committed, you have civilized. You're the best mothers in the world. I hope that you have had fun. I hope you've learned from all the chapters. And we are ending up on some of my favorite chapters, and chapters that will be kind of the refining pieces for you as you figure out your mission of motherhood. What are all of the aspects in which I, as a mom, am bringing the life of God into my home? And so today we're going to be talking about one of my very favorite areas. This is the area of becoming the creative mother, opening windows to God's artistry and greatness. Do you wish that somebody would speak, would declare to your children, would whisper in their hearts and tell them about God through a megaphone? Well, let me read you this verse. I love this verse. It's Psalm 19:1. It says, "The heavens are declaring, they're telling the glory of God. Their expanse is declaring the work of his hand." You see, one of the best ways that we can really give our children a heart for God is to take them out into nature. But unfortunately, in this day and age, we have almost forgotten what nature is. We stay in this enclosed box on wheels and ride down the highway listening to music and constant entertainment. We go into the box of our houses at night. We watch a box or we look at a box, and we look to those places for entertainment, for relationships. And what I want you to understand is that one of the ways that we really open up our children's hearts to God speaking to them is when we expose them to nature, when we take them out. God said the heavens are telling, they're declaring God's reality. And so one of the ways that we have to declare to our children the nature, the wisdom, the greatness of God is by providing them all sorts of ways to be involved in nature. I have a sweet friend, Gwen, and I've written about her in many of my books and told stories about her. But do you remember I was telling you in my last chapter about how we would take our children every time one of them turned 15 on a trip overseas? Well, this particular trip was the first trip. It was Sarah's trip. And it was such a fun time because I finally got to be on my own with my daughter for 2 weeks. It was a very special occasion. My husband was taking care of my kids. He did a great job. Sometimes when you leave and leave your children with your husband, you find that they will step up to the bat. They'll do creative things with your kids that will make memories. But we found ourselves in Vienna, and Gwen had been my roommate many years before in Poland when I worked in it as a communist country. And so Gwenny had developed one day this wonderful idea of having a secret picnic into a hiding place. And she wasn't going to tell the kids where we were going, or Sarah, where we were going or what we were going to do. And so she took us to the Kahlenberg, which is the place at the top of Vienna that has all of these gorgeous vineyards that lead up to the top of the Vienna woods. And so we all started with backpacks on our back, with our hiking shoes on. It was a gorgeous day. And the leaves were on all of these beautiful vineyards, and they were in exact neat rows. We walked up this winding trail, and she started telling Sarah stories of all the memories that she'd had from living in Vienna for 25 years. And finally, when we got up to the top of the woods, she said, "I discovered a secret place that no one knows about." And we walked through this little pathway of trees, and we crawled through a hedge of bushes. And when we got to the other side, there was this tiny, tiny little circle with hedges all about that had a little bench in the middle that no one could see into, where Gwenny had discovered many years before. And so we sat here that day. The sky was glorious, the fruit was blooming, the trees were in full bloom, the breezes were cool. And she took out, and when she presented this little picnic, she presented these wonderful pieces of bright red strawberries. And then she took out these extremely soft apricots, and she presented them to Sarah. And she said, "We have a wonderful treat today." And she said, "These are sparkling apples that have been turned into apple juice for you." And she gave her own little thermos of apple juice. And we sat there in the middle of this glorious place with the wind blowing and with the trees in the breeze. And Sarah said, you know, for the rest of my life, I will picture the Vienna Woods as one of the most beautiful places where God gave me moments of peace with my two best friends. You see, we need to take our children out in nature. I want to read something to you that really helped me to understand the importance of taking my children into nature. It's in Romans chapter 1. And this is what Paul was saying about the importance of the creation of the world. It says in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes," what he's like, who he is, his eternal power, his divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what he has made. When our children have to marvel at nature, God actually created nature to be the platform where we could see that he was an artist. If God is an artist, we need to be co-creators. What does that mean? It means we need to create in our world things that are like what God created. He created color, he created beauty, he created textures, he created food. I love it that God created these things so we could be happy. Sometimes we're even afraid of being happy, aren't we? We're afraid of our children being too happy. It must not be spiritual. But God is the one who created us with the capacity to have joy. When we take these fresh foods like these wonderful avocados and make fresh guacamole, or when we chop up chili peppers and have fajitas, or when we make fresh squeezed lemonade, we're giving our children sense pleasures. They can taste these wonderful things. When we give them a soft blanket, when we give them a puppy dog to love, when we catch a butterfly, or when we draw a butterfly, when we pick bouquets of flowers, we're bringing into our children's environment not only the beauty of God's creation, but things that were made for our own pleasure. Creativity is the first thing that God displayed as a part of his attributes.